Good evening. Hello, Corinne. Happy Monday. Hi, Anne. Thanks for tuning in. Hi, Thelma. Hope everyone's been having a good day today. It is definitely hot up in our neck of the woods. Thank you for sharing, Thelma. Hi, Mom. Hi, Caitlin. Thank you, ladies, for hopping on tonight. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to visit with me online. We will go ahead and get started in just a minute here. I have a peek at our Mystery Monday card here. We are doing a partial die cut technique tonight. So we'll talk about that more in a minute. Just real quick before we get started, I wanted to remind everybody about our Designer Series paper sale that is only lasting for one more week. August the 2nd is the last day to order one of these 9 packs of paper at a 15% discount. And that includes the Designer Series paper I will be using tonight on my card from the Sweet Symmetry Designer Series paper set. So just don't forget about those and stay tuned. At the end of the video, I'm going to talk about an upcoming virtual workshop and show you the projects we'll be making. So tonight we are doing a partial die cut technique, and I am using the Celebrate Sunflowers stamp set and the matching die. Specifically, the largest die that matches the sunflower set. So we will go ahead and get started. And the idea with this card, I have to tell you a little story. I had in my head a partial die cut card, and I went to look up the instructions to make sure I was going to be doing it right, and I realized that this is not the partial die cut technique that I was looking for. It's a totally different one. So I actually wasn't able to find anything on the one that I have in my head, so I might just have to make that up myself, but I decided we would go ahead and try this one instead. And so the card front is solid, like your typical card. This is where the partial die cut comes in, because you're partially cutting this panel to showcase the whole stamp on the front of the card. So this is a smidge tricky. It's not too bad. There's definitely some pointers that I can give you in doing this. I will admit the first time I did this, it did not turn out well at all. So this is my second version. So we will go ahead and I'll show you how to make the card. So the first thing you're going to need is a card base that is 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2 on the 11-inch side. So it's basically the long, skinny card base. Some people call that a hot dog. Have you guys heard of the hot dog hamburger thing? I'm kind of all new to that with paper folding and whatnot. I hadn't heard it until my kids had virtual school this year and they were folding paper. So I thought that was kind of funny. So you're going to fold your card base in half, and your fold's going to go at the top. Now, honestly, you probably could do this with a card that opens from the side. So it really doesn't matter, but this is the way I chose to do this card. Hi, Sue. Happy Monday. So next, you're going to need a strip of Designer Series paper that is 1 inch wide by 5 1/2 inches tall. And I am using a piece from the Sweet Symmetry card, or Designer Series paper pack. And let's see. We're gonna glue that on the left edge of the card. Sorry, I got a little distracted with something here at home, but it's okay, we're good. So you can grab your adhesive and put some adhesive on the back of your strip of Designer Series paper. I find it easier to open the card flat when I am doing this so that I can lay my strip of Designer Series paper right here along the edge. If it's directional, make sure you have it going in the direction that you like. And part of it's going to be covered up. So it's up to you how much of the Designer Series paper you show. So just keep that in mind as you're laying your strip of paper here. It's a little easier when you can get closer to it. I have my camera up a little higher tonight because I'm going to be using my emboss machine. I need a little more height, in case you've noticed the setup is different. But here we go. This is your first step, is gluing that strip of paper along that left-hand edge. So the next thing you want to do is you need 2 panels of cardstock. Your accent color is going to go underneath. I chose Just Jade for this. This is 2 3/4 inches wide by 5.5 tall, so it is going to run the length of the card front. And then a piece of cardstock the same color as your base, which is 2.5 inches wide and 5.5 inches tall. And it can be embossed if you want. It doesn't have to be. I'm actually going to make this one not embossed, but hopefully you can see I did emboss this panel on my sample with one of the greenery embossing folders. So it's up to you. I have noticed that you lose a little bit of the embossing when you run the panel through with your die cut, so just keep that in mind. It does take a little bit of that embossed layer. It kind of smushes it down a little bit, but it still looks just fine. So it's totally up to you if you want to emboss the panel or not. If you're going to emboss the panel, do it now before you glue it to the secondary piece, your accent color. And what you want to do for this is make sure you use a fair amount of glue, because we're cutting through 2 layers of cardstock once we have this on, and you want to make sure it's not going to pull apart. So just put a good bit of adhesive on the back, and then you're going to center the panel that's the same color as your card base. And you could always experiment if you want. It doesn't have to be the same color. And then give this a really good press to make sure it's where you want it to be. Now, I saw 2 different ways that you can do this next step, and it's really up to you. You might get a feel for making the card and then decide you want to do it differently than I am. One of the videos that I watched to get an idea of this technique, the lady die cut first, I think, and then stamped. I like to stamp first and then die cut. It just gives me a little more flexibility. So what you're going to do, I'm going to bring some scrap paper over because I'm probably going to stamp off my card front a little bit. Make sure you guys can see here. So I've got my card front, and what I want to do is position this sunflower here towards the center, but a little to the right on the card front. Now, depending on your shape, this is going to be easier than what I'm doing tonight. Because I opted for the sunflower, which is this lovely shape, but I have to be mindful of which way my stamps and my die are facing so that I can coordinate when I cut it out. If you're using a different shape, hi Heather, happy Monday. Say a flower with a stem. It's a little bit easier because you don't have to fool with the positioning quite so much. Now, I will give you a tip. If you've got a stamp like this that has a matching die cut, rather than spending half an hour trying to turn it around and around to figure it out, here's a quick tip for you. Figure it out the first time and then put a Sharpie marker on the top of your stamp, like on the foam part and a little bit on the red rubber, and then match it up with the die cut, and it goes this way. And then when you go to cut it out, you will always have it lined up and ready to go. So there's just a little bonus tip for you. It's a bit easier. So I'm going to make sure my stamp is facing the right way up. And since it's a larger stamp, I'm bringing my Navy ink pad to the stamp rather than try to maneuver the stamp around the ink pad. So now I'm going to stamp right about here. Depending on the size of your stamped image, you might not need to stamp off the paper at all. Ooh, registration mark. Mom, that sounds so professional. I like that. Make me sound like I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so now you've got your stamped image on the paper. And this is the trickiest part of the whole thing. And it's really not that tricky. It takes a little bit of practice. But like I said, depending on the shape you choose, it might be easier than the sunflower. I was a little ambitious for my first choice. So take your panel, the one you have glued together, and you're going to lay it on your card front, covering up a little bit of your designer series paper. Now you can cover, you might want to leave 1/2 to 1/4 or 3/4 of an inch showing. Since you went to the trouble of putting the paper on, you might not want to squeeze it all the way over there to the left. But lay it down and figure out where you want your panel to be. And then what I recommend is putting a little pencil line. Now it's up to you how you want to do it. I like to put a little line here at the top, kind of on the back side of the card. And that way it erases a little easier than if you put a line here on the front, because we're going to be gluing this down eventually. But just give yourself some measurements to eyeball, so to speak, where you put your panel down. And then what you're going to do is take your die and line it up on the panel. And as I said, mine's a little trickier because I use this lovely sunflower. Now here's a tip. I watched a lady and she used washi tape, or the crafter's kind of masking tape, not the kind you'd seal up a box with, but the kind for crafting that comes off easy. And she used that washi tape to hold down her die in place so it didn't move at all. Ladies, I tried that and it ripped my cardstock. I don't know what was wrong with my washi tape, but boy was I annoyed when I had to go back and do this again. So I opted to skip the washi tape. I did something different instead. When I got my die in place and I'm holding it down, I took my pencil, which I had out anyway for my pencil marks, and I just decided I'm not tracing around the whole thing, but I'm giving myself some marks to kind of keep in mind in case this shifts on me as I move it to my die cutting machine. That way I can line it back up. So just a few. Here you can see what I did so that I'm able to line it back up if I need to. So hopefully you're all with me. Now what I need to do is grab my die cutting machine and bring it on over to the table. So give me 1 second. And I'm gonna bring my machine over. This is our cut and emboss machine, and I apologize for the glare. So I have my platform, my mini plate. What I love about this machine, if you don't already have it, is they sort of gave you the dummy's guide to die cutting. All you have to do is look at the chart right here and know what you need. So I need the bottom platform, I need the, I guess you can call it a shim, and then my cutting plate at the bottom. And then I'm going to bring over that panel lined up. And this is where those pencil marks would come in handy. Or, as I'm thinking about it just right the second, I could have probably taped the other half of the die to the cutting plate and then put my paper under it. That probably would have worked too. And the reason I went with the pencil marks on the inside is that's not going to show because we're going to cut that part of the paper off. So now I'm going to put my top plate on, hopefully without moving it too much. If it moves too much on you, pick it up and put it down again. And then roll it through your machine. If you want, roll it back through, because you're cutting through those 2 layers of cardstock. And then, let's see here. Move my platforms out of the way. And I think I did pretty close. I've got my sunflower cut out and my scrap, which I can now pitch. Don't need that. And if you did it right, cross your fingers and pray here. When you line your paper up with your pencil marks at the top for your edges, your die cut will fit perfectly with your shape. Corinne, you probably could try a Post-it note. I didn't think of that the other night, but that's a good idea too. Maybe I'll try that on my YouTube video tonight. We'll see. But this is probably the best one that I've done with this. So I know you guys say I make it look easy. It usually doesn't work this well. I only had to redo one of my samples though because it was so crooked I couldn't use it. So now you need to bring out your dimensionals, flip your partially cut panel over, and you will need a good many dimensionals. And oh, for pity's sake, I already got them out. No wonder I can't find them. Right in front of my nose. You do need a good many dimensionals for this panel. Now, if you have the long adhesive strips, you can use those instead of a ton of dimensionals. But you want to make sure that you have adequate coverage so your panel doesn't sink in the middle, especially if you're putting it in the mail. So you don't have to go hog wild and have one every ½ inch or something, but you do want to have enough that you've got a good coverage here for your panel. So peel your dimensional backings off. And then flip it over. I always wait to erase my pencil marks until I have this completely done. Now remember, you've got sticky on the back, so try not to lay it down until you've got it where you want it. I tend to angle my paper while I'm holding it up, and that way it kind of helps me. Things don't get stuck completely down until you're ready. And now that that's in place, you can kind of see the dimension, maybe a little, if I'm doing this right, here with the die cut. And now you can go ahead and erase those pencil marks if you want. And nobody will be the wiser. Okay? So next we're going to add a little accent to the front of the card, a little banner with a sentiment. So you need a white cardstock strip, basic white, that's about 3/4 of an inch tall, and then your accent color, and I matched my accent color. You could use a different color if you wanted. I used the Just Jade, that's 1 inch tall and wide enough for your sentiment. So if you've got a short little sentiment, you don't need it as long as mine. I specifically measured and left a little room at the end, but I knew my sentiment was long, so I wanted to go with a longer strip. So what I'm going to do is take some Flirty Flamingo ink. I can't remember if I mentioned, this is Petal Pink that I used to go with the Designer Series paper and Just Jade. Kind of non-traditional colors for sunflowers, I know, but I wanted to use some of that gorgeous DSP. So I've got my Let's Celebrate You sentiment, and I'm just going to stamp it here. A little higher than I wanted, but we're going to roll with it anyway. Close my ink before I get it everywhere. And I want to make a banner out of the end. I'll bring over my my sample card so you can see it again. Hi Melody, happy Monday. So I mentioned this before on a video. I envy the ladies that can make a banner end on anything with scissors because I do not have that gift. It's kind of like tying bows. I'm just not very good at it. So my favorite trick is to take my tailored tag punch and slip my paper in and use this end to trim my edges and make a banner. Trickiest part is having to center the paper before I trim it. Didn't do too bad there. Now, I am not going to glue the white panel on and try to do that again, because I never in a million years get that part right. So what I'm going to do now I'm going to use my scissors, because now that I've done the hard part, I'm a little better with the scissors. So I'm going to layer this together. Now I'm going to bring over my scissors, because this part I can trim. When I've got something to go on, it's a little bit easier. I'm not quite so challenged. So it might not be perfect, but that's not too bad. Sometimes I do have to start over, but that one's not too shabby. Now, if you wanted to, before you put your dimensionals on, if you didn't emboss your panel and you think it's too bare, you could definitely stamp with an accent stamp like a sploosh or a splatter, something like that. I'm going to add some bling instead. So I'm going to add my little banner down here at the bottom, I think. And let's see. You can experiment and see where you might want it. I'm definitely going to go with the bottom here. And what you can do, depending on the length and positioning of your banner, you could put dimensionals on the end, like just on the end here to help with the height from your panel, but you could glue the rest of it flat. I think that's what I'm going to do here. I was thinking it was awful close to the edge, but I think I can manage. So I'm going to put one dimensional there and a bit of glue here on the end. And then, whoop, you love it when the glue's so strong it sticks to your fingers. This way my banner will not sag at the end, because I've got the height behind it with the dimensional, but I've got the rest just glued flat, if that makes sense. And then last but not least, I am going to add a little bit of bling. I brought out some of our In Color enamel dots from last year's In Colors. I believe these are retired, but we have them in squares now. I just found that out. And so I'm going to add some of these bumblebee dots for some accents. And this way the card doesn't look quite so bare on the front, since I chose not to emboss this one. So there you go. Cute, simple, not terribly hard. Like I said, a little bit tricky, but it won't take you hours. So here's the side by side. Oop, I did forget to do the inside. We'll do that here in a minute. But hopefully I'm going to hold these a little higher to the camera. Hopefully you can see the difference between that embossed panel and the flat one. And just really quick, what we're going to do for the inside and the envelope. I'll bring my scrap paper back over. I have a 5 1/4 by 4 piece of basic white for the inside. Now I could honestly, with it being a petal pink, I could leave it and just stamp here, but I'm not going to. I'm going to add that white panel. I have the small sunflower set, or stamp from the set. So I'm going to go back to that Night of Navy ink and just stamp the corner of my envelope, and then the corners of my insert. And now, once I glue this inside, it will be ready to go. So, Thelma, I am glad you like the card. I love how fast this ink dries, that I can turn it over and glue it and not have to worry about smearing it. Oop. So there we go. Quick little insert, matching envelope, and my card is ready to go. So definitely a different technique, fun and different, but not too complicated. At least I hope you ladies didn't think so. So of course I have some more samples to show you. I wanted to show you different possibilities that you have. So here is a card using the same technique with a different stamp set. This uses the hand pen suite with the stamp set and the designer series paper. Hi Bonnie, happy Monday. Thanks for joining me. I am showing samples of the technique that we just finished up. You can go back and catch the replay from the beginning just after I finish this video, and there will also be a YouTube video over on my YouTube channel, which is Faithfully Stamping with Jennifer Helm. For anybody who hasn't checked me out on YouTube, I'd love it if you hopped over there and subscribed. There is always a copy of this video there as well. So this is again the same technique using that die cut shape, and you can mix it up a little bit. For this one, I stamped directly on the cardstock and opted not to use a banner. And then for this card, same concept, but I added a little piece of designer series paper and my sentiment. So similar, different looks though. So you know me ladies, I like you to have options. So next up, I have another card, same stamp set, same designer series paper, just a different color. But I used designer series paper instead of an additional piece of cardstock. So I used cardstock and DSP for my layers. And again, stamped right on the designer series paper. You can't do that with all the designer series paper. It really depends on what pattern you use, if it's subtle enough to stamp directly on. So there's another option for you. I'm in love with these colors. I don't know about you ladies. Now, another way you can use this technique is to heat emboss with it. This just adds one more step. It's the same technique that I used before, but instead of stamping with a colored ink, I'm stamping with Versamark and then sprinkling white embossing powder on and heat setting it before I do my die cut piece. So, like I said, it's just one more step. And again, you can make the card different based on where you put your sentiment and whether or not you emboss your card front. For this one, I embossed this panel. It might be really hard to see, and I used the debossed side, and then when I die cut, it kind of pressed it down so it doesn't look as debossed as it might if I hadn't run it through the machine twice. So definitely a different look, but same concept. And then last but not least, you are getting a sneak peek of my video for Friday evening. It is the month of July. This is actually the last Friday coming up, and I've been featuring a Christmas suite each of the Fridays in July. And this next Friday we are doing the Painted Christmas suite. And so I used the designer series paper as well as the stamp set for these next two cards. So you're getting a little preview. And again, I just wanted you to see the difference just by where, maybe how you do your ribbon or whether you add some accent stamps or bling. So there you have it. I can't wait to play more with these stamps. We're going to have some fun on Friday night. So I hope you ladies enjoyed the partial die cut technique. As I mentioned just now, Friday will be our last Christmas in July feature. We'll go back to the regularly scheduled programming where we'll do projects on Mondays and Fridays after this week. But I'll be featuring the Christmas season stamp set as well as the Christmas to Remember and the seasonal labels and the Christmas pine cone dies and the designer series paper. And I am seriously in love with the prints that accompany this Painted Christmas set. So pretty. Now, I promised at the beginning of the video a sneak peek of some other cards. If you like to craft, I am doing a virtual workshop on, it's actually not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday. It's coming up awfully fast. I keep confusing myself thinking I'm having another week in there, but I don't. I am doing a virtual workshop called Peaches and Plants. I'm doing 6 cards total, 3 that feature the Peach Suite and 3 that feature the Plentiful Plants Suite. So I'm going to quick run through and show you the cards we'll be making. Here's card number 1. And card number 2, these feature the Peach from the Peach set. And here's a fun one with a little basket full of peaches. So this is going to be August the 7th at 8:15 If you are interested, you can get a packet of materials from me for $20. It is an extra $5 if you need me to ship it. And I need to know ASAP if you're participating so I can get these out in the mail and make sure you have everything. And then we'll be going live on Facebook, probably in a private event. I'm going to do a private event for all the ladies that sign up, ladies and gents, in case I have any gents that join. And we'll craft together, and you'll also have directions in case you are not able to catch the live, but you'll be able to come and catch the replay in the event. So here's some of the plants. These are the 3 cards that we'll be making for the plant part of it. So if you are interested in this workshop, please let me know right away just so I can get the materials out to you. And again, that's August the 7th at 8:15. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining me for the partial die cut. If you make one of these, I would love to see what you make. So please share with me, Anne. I'd love to see what you make with this technique. So Friday, 8:30, Christmas in July, one more time with the painted Christmas suite. And then I will be back next Monday at 8:30 with the Mystery Monday card. So I will post a supply list Monday morning, and then you'll get to see the card when we go live at 8:30, just like tonight. All right, ladies, thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to craft along with me tonight. I truly appreciate you. I hope you'll come back and spend a little more Christmas with me on Friday night. And if not, I'll see you online again soon. Take care, ladies, and happy crafting.